A few things to know before you fly WestJet to Nashville. You don't need cowboy boots to have a great time in Nashville. You don't need a cowboy hat either. You don't even need to be a country music fan. To have a great time in Nashville, you just need to go to Nashville. WestJet can certainly help with that, with great low WestJet fares nonstop from Calgary to Nashville. Visit WestJet.com or call your travel agent.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Lori Smith. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another Restoration, and a 30-minute show. We're just basically looking at a morning reflection and positive reinforcement, self-care, coping mechanisms. Sort of looking at our healing journeys. That's what I'm doing, and hopefully someone's getting something out of this show. I know it helps me to sort of stay on track with my healing journey, keep working on it, and little by little, and so that's what this show is about. And if you're a survivor of abuse, you want to make sure that you're far enough along in your healing journey to, that you're safe enough to listen, and that it won't trigger you and send you backward in your healing journey. So make sure that you're safe enough to be listening. And if you're not sure, just get that information. You can find it at many places. Adults, the ASCA, Adult Survivors of Child Abuse, a Morse Center program, they have on their website a safety. It's a workbook, a Survivor to Thriver workbook. But the Safety First chapter is the first chapter of the book, and it's 60-something pages long. It's really worth looking at. If you're not sure, if you're safe enough to be listening, just turn this show off. Don't listen to anything like this from anybody else, and get that information first and make sure that you are safe enough to listen to things like this. And then, if you're anybody else, you just listen at your own discretion. We're talking about abuse, survivors, information for adult survivors, and it's just very, it can be uncomfortable for a lot of people. So just make sure that you're, first of all, not a minor, and that you're old enough to be listening to this, and also that the information is not going to bother you. You have to make that discretion. You have to use your own discretion, right? So we'll get right into this. We're looking at morning reflection. First of all, how are we doing on our healing journey? How am I doing this morning on my healing journey? Well, it's been a busy week. This was a calendar trigger date for me was this week, and I managed through it quite well, actually, this year. And it's just several reasons why this particular date is a trigger for me. And so I did have a lot of flashbacks this week and a lot of very uncomfortable sort of memories and stuff, and just very, I was a little bit uptight and sort of discouraged most of the week. But I did get through it a little bit better than I usually do, and I think it's just because I sort of did some reflection and meditation and prayer and whatnot that sort of helped me out to kind of get through it, bolster me up, and strengthen me for the week. So it didn't do too bad. I'm very happy about that. Didn't sink down into depression or anything like that. And otherwise, the week's been very, very busy. Been running around like a crazy person, trying to get everything done and working as well. And so it's been, I haven't had a whole lot of time to do anything other than that. So, but how am I doing? Pretty good, I'd say, for this week, managing through. I did just the other day order a book for CSA Child Sexual Abuse Survivors called, I think it's called The Wounded Heart or something like that. But anyway, it's coming, it's on the way with a workbook. And I'm hoping that will also help me in my healing journey. And it wasn't cheap. It was for the workbook and the actual book itself in Canada, running about $35 just for those two books. But it's going to be worth it, I think. And I'm looking forward to receiving those next week sometime and going through and doing the work. So at least I'm making some progress on my healing journey and not just stuffing this stuff and not just putting this stuff back into a drawer and closing the drawer and taking the key and putting the key away for another day. Just working through it very slowly, and that's what I'm doing. So we can ask ourselves, this is why I'm doing this show, to sort of take a look and see where I'm at in my healing journey, what I need to work on. And, hopefully it'll help others, too, to realize that, there's things that we could do for ourselves to help ourselves to get through this stuff, right? We're looking at HAVOCA, that's HAVOCA, Help for Adult Victims of Child Abuse, HAVOCA.org. And there's this acronym that this lady Cheryl has put there for all the letters that spell out the words adult survivors of sexual abuse. She's written a little blurb for, and we're on letter L in the word sexual. So you can go to the website there. I did pop the link in the chat room if you'd like to to grab it if you're logged on and you can get in there. The link's there. You can just look on the Survivor tab and look over under that Survivor's info on the tabs there, and you can find it. So the letter L, learn to enjoy life. Live each day to the fullest and cherish new memories. Imprint them in your heart. Never let them go. There are no guarantees for tomorrow, so live for today. I like that. It's kind of that's something I try to live by, actually, because life is short. It really is. And learn to enjoy life. Live each day to the fullest and cherish new memories. I like that. Imprint them in your heart. Never let them go. There are no guarantees for tomorrow, so live for today. So, yeah, survivors of abuse, I have good days just like everybody else, even other people that are not abuse survivors, have bad days too, right? We're not the only ones on the planet that have bad days, right? Things happen to people, things happen around people that, that cause people to become discouraged or down or whatever. Bad things happen to all kinds of people, right? And so as survivors of abuse, we're kind of coming from behind the eight ball because we're having to deal with this on top of whatever's in our adult lives, right? And it's real easy to get down and morose, right? And spend a lot of time in looking at maybe, instead of looking at each day as they come as a new challenge and a new opportunity for something good to happen. We're quite often, I know I am, I really can't speak for others, but quite often just stuck in the past, thinking about the past and the pain of the past. And I used to do that more than I do that now. It's because I've come quite a ways on my healing journey. But I know before I started my healing journey, at the age of 42 really, didn't even start it before that. I didn't even consider myself to be an abuse survivor before that because I just grew up in this hellhole, and that's just what I considered myself to be, someone who grew up in a home full of domestic violence and stuff like that, and dysfunction and mental illness and psychological illness on my parents' side. And I really didn't sit around sitting there in a saying, "Oh, I'm an abuse survivor," but I knew that I was, and so I was in a funk, a terrible funk, until the age of 42. So now what I do is exactly what she says here: learn to enjoy life. Live each day to the fullest and cherish new memories. What I try to do, but just because my husband's terminally ill, which makes a big, huge issue in our lives, is live each day as if it's our last, right? So in other words, I can't sit around and mope and be in, despair and do the things that I used to do before I started my healing journey, because I'm trying to enjoy my life with my husband who's terminally ill. And so it does make huge, difference, and it does keep me focused on trying to make the best of each day as they come. So I think that's important for all of us, to cherish new memories, to cherish good days. We're all going to have bad days, everybody, and sometimes those are those are hard to get through. They really are. Especially if it's things that are lingering because of our issues, because we were abused, the issues of rejection or the issues of self-worth or the issues of self-sabotage in our lives because we were abused as children. It's hard to get through, but that's why there has to be a focus. There has to be something that that actually sort of helps our minds and our thought processes to realize that, as a child I suffered greatly, but as an adult I'm actually doing quite well. I'm not in an abusive relationship. I look out for myself. I'm very much trying to take care of myself and trying to do the things I need to do, every day to have a good life. And so my focus can't be the pain of my past, even though it haunts me, I still haven't gotten over that. But the thing is that doesn't mean I can't enjoy the day. And so I always start my day out in a positive light, even if I'm having a real hard time and it's very discouraging. I just try to remember that this could be my last day, and how do I want to spend it, And, if I just continue to spiral downward and not do well and just, sit in that pit of despair, then my abusers won. Because if they ruin my life completely as a child, which they did, but if they and all through my teens and into my adulthood, but if they ruin my life now that I'm on my healing journey and I let the abuse ruin my life, then that means my abusers won. And I refuse to let my abusers win. So I start my day out with a smile on my face, because every day that I wake up is a slap in my abuser's face. It's a shameful thing on them. The shame belongs to them. Shame on them for doing what they did to me. That's how I look at it. I don't take the blame for the abuse, right? And so I don't sit around feeling like, oh, it's my fault, and I should, if I was good, or I was a good person or worthy or whatever. The abuse, that was their deal, and they just did that to me. So, shame on them. And I try to start my day every day with a smile on my face and put my best foot forward. And it doesn't always work out, and usually by the end of the day something's gone wrong. But I don't let that stack up against me. I just start the next day fresh and just do that again. And I think that's kind of why I'm able to get through things, the way that I do. So I don't know. It's hard. It's very hard. I know, and some days are harder than others for sure. And not every day is going to be a good day. But I think we just have to keep trying, right? So I really like what she says. So live for today. There's no guarantees for tomorrow. Live for today. I really like that. So we'll move on. There's quite a few letters left. Well, there's a few. We've got about another couple, I don't know, another while to go on that. But I like what she's written there. The next section I want to look at, this is from their Attitudes section. If you go to the Survivors tab, Information for Survivors, Havoca, HAVOCA.org. Under their Information for Survivors tab, there's an Attitude tab, Attitudes. And they're talking about the inner abuser here, which is that inner critical voice. Some people call it the inner critical parent voice. Some people call it the inner abuser. There's different names for it. I've seen several. It's just that inner voice that's very critical and negative. And it could be just things that our abusers told us, or it could be even our own negativity coming through there that is very harsh on us, right? So they've written this article about the inner abuser, and I think this is interesting, and I really want to look at this because I go through this stuff all the time, every day. It says your inner abuser is the voice within you that calls you, for instance, stupid or incompetent. And this, he or she this inner voice will criticize you at every opportunity. Your inner abuser will undermine your every effort and attack you at every opportunity. And it is important to become aware at how your inner abuser is activated. Usually when you make the slightest mistake or make a minor error of judgment. So even waiting at the bus stop may force your inner abuser to launch into an attack to tell you how bad your day is going to be, or that your hair looks dreadful today. Your inner abuser thrives on your serious problems such as addiction or violence because it gives him or her, whoever the inner abuser is, because it gives them the opportunity to get on your case on a regular basis. So here are some negative messages common negative messages spoken by the inner abuser. For instance, they'll say things like, you can't do anything right, you're stupid, you're ugly. This is what our inner abuser might tell us, right? You're this, you're that, right? You're not strong enough, you're unsuccessful, you're unlikable, you screwed up your marriage, you can't trust others, you don't deserve it, right? These are the things that, just a list of, they've listed here just common negative messages spoken by the inner abuser. Excuse me, my voice is terrible today. So they said these negative messages usually result in a very low self-esteem, and this will only reinforce your anger and distrust towards yourself and others, which may ultimately lead to feelings of depression, alienation, and isolation. And you may not be consciously aware of those inner messages, but you may feel low self-esteem or distrust others, right? And these problems can often lead to serious problems such as violence, critical attitude towards others, fear of communicating feelings, fear of asking for help when needed, social withdrawal, dependence on chemicals. For healing to progress, these problems need to be addressed. So that's the first part of this article. Really quite interesting. And I think I've studied this stuff on, especially from John Bradshaw's work and also Robert Burney, which I really like their work. Robert Burney is The Dance of Wounded Souls. And then the Codependency, The Dance of Wounded Souls. That's Robert Burney, Burney. And also John Bradshaw. Everybody pretty well knows who he is. John Bradshaw wrote those books, Healing the Shame That Binds Us, and also the Loving the Wounded Heart Within, or whatever, Loving the Wounded Inner Child, or whatever that book is titled. That I haven't read them for a while, but I need to get them back out. I was going to, and I haven't done it yet because I'm packed and sort of half packed and ready to move, and I've packed all my books, and I need to find out what box they're in and go and get those out. And so, but anyway, they're helpful, very, very helpful. I need to go. They actually have work that you can do in them, and I need to do that work. So, but this is a serious issue. This inner abuser. This is what haunts me to this day. there's several things that haunt me to this day, but this is one of them. And this is that credit because I grew up abused from zero to, to today, right? There was never a time in my life that when I was growing up that I was actually treated decently as a child. And, because my parents were abusive types, right? They were very abusive. They were abusive to each other. They were abusive to all their children. And because they were abused and they were very ignorant and very hurtful, mentally ill, and including psychologically ill, and they hated each other. They hated their life, and they really hated this life they had created for themselves, and they hated this world. And so they really made a great effort to destroy their children, right? And they did, and but not completely, but they certainly did try. And these things run through my mind, I mean, what my mother especially would tell me, because I loved my mother so much, and I really wanted her love, and I didn't care about my dad so much. He's very evil, and I didn't care about him. He was just he just caused so many problems with my mother and the family that I just I didn't really care about my relationship with him. But my mother, I really loved her, and I could see she was suffering. And even though she was my main abuser, this is the problem here. This is psychological damage done. She was my abuser, but I loved her so much. I wanted her to not suffer, and I didn't want to see my mom hurt and suffering. And I loved her. And the stuff that she said to me really, really hurt me, and it sticks with me because I can hear it all today. Her voice, right? And I know what she meant, like what she said she meant. That's the problem with it, because I've had people say, "Well, are you sure? Like she meant all those things? Wasn't she just angry or at your father, and angry about her marriage and angry about life, and that she didn't really mean those things?" And actually, she did. She meant all of it. She was just a very harsh person herself. She was abused as a child herself. She was unhappy, and she meant those things. She wasn't fooling around. And so it's sad because that's the voice I hear. I don't hear this voice from my mother saying nice things to me. That because she never did say anything nice to me. Everything she said to all of her children was very, very negative. And if it wasn't completely negative, then it just didn't really matter. It was kind of like worthless. So we didn't get what we needed from her, and all I got was this inner abuser that tells me that I'm no good. I'm just worthless. I'm useless. I'm stupid, and I didn't deserve to live, because that's what I heard all my life. I never deserved to live. I should have been born stillborn. That's what she used to tell me, along with physical abuse, physical violence, just beating this into me, right? And that she didn't want me. I was a rape child, and that she never wanted any of her children. She didn't want me, and we were all just worthless to her. Just and from this inner abuser from my mother, this is stuff rolls around in my head, including all the bad names she called me, which was on a regular basis, because my mother cussed and loved to cuss us up a storm, and she used to curse us. She used to curse me to hell. She used to damn me to hell. She used to do stuff like that. She was horrible, and my dad did the same type of thing, right? And he not so much as my mom, because I didn't have much of a interaction with him, except for when he was beating on me. But otherwise, I didn't talk to him too much. But he did. He did get a few words in there here and there, that this inner voice from him tells me that I'm this evil demon child that deserved to die, needed to go back down to the pits of hell, and stuff like this. This is for real. This is the stuff that I heard from my parents. We all did, all of my siblings. 2 of my siblings are dead. They committed suicide. One of my sisters actually was suicidal, but she died of cancer. And one of my siblings was murdered at 19 years old, so. But the other 2 that are living today they're not in so much denial, but they're very, very silent, and they're not saying anything, right? But we all know what we went through, really horrific stuff. And so now I've got this inner voice that tells me that I can't do anything right, just like they're saying here. I'm stupid. I'm unsuccessful. I'm unlikable. And because my career didn't go the way that I wanted it to, or whatever, I could sit back every day and be discouraged about that, or that my life hasn't gone the way that I thought it should by the age of 51 that I am today. Then I can sit back and say, well, I was just useless and worthless anyway. This sort of thing is a major, major issue for survivors of abuse, And these, in order to heal from this stuff, these problems have to be addressed. And so that's what we're going to pick up. I hope you'll go to this website, because I don't have to listen to those voices. That's probably what they'll continue on to say here, and we'll look at this on Monday. But these voices, that tell me all these horrible things, they're wrong, because I'm not stupid. See, I go through and I negate all of these negative. This is how I've learned to deal with this inner abuser of mine that criticizes me at every opportunity. They're right. This inner abuser, undermines and attacks me at every opportunity. This inner voice of mine that tells me I'm useless and worthless, especially when I make a mistake. They're totally, obviously, this is a problem for a lot of people, right? And so what I do is I just say, I'm not perfect. No, I'm not perfect, and no one else is. So anybody who thinks they're perfect is completely, because you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes, and I have to realize that. And I can't, I can do things right, and I do a good job. I'm a good person. I'm not stupid. I can go back and negate all of these horrible things that I have running through my mind at different points during the day or different points in my week, And I don't have to listen to that voice, because I can just tell that voice, you're a liar, because I'm none of those things you're telling me. I didn't deserve to die with the stillborn babies. I deserve to live. When I was born preemie, very, very sick. My mother was very sick, and actually when I was born, she went into a coma, and so she didn't realize I was born. And the nurses actually I had to be in an incubator because I was 3.5 months early or something, way too tiny. I almost died, and so they saved my life. And was I thankful? Well, yeah, I am thankful today. When I was growing up, I wasn't thankful, but I'm thankful now. But the thing is my mother didn't even know I was born, and my nurses actually named me, and my parents didn't even bother to change my name to what they were going to name me because they didn't care. They were just like, whatever. So there's this next little thing we have to try to raise, and then shortly after I was born, they were brought up on abuse charges. So I just grew up in this pit of hell. That's why I called my website Born in Hell. And I don't have to listen to those voices. I deserve to live. I deserve to have a good life. I'm maybe not as successful as other people might think that I should be, and why do I have to judge my life based on somebody else's determination of what successful is? Right? I'm successful because I'm still alive and I survived the abuse, and so are you. Right? If you're a survivor of abuse, you don't listen to those negative voices that try to drag you down back into that corner that you were in before, back into that pit of despair. Right? We're successful because we actually navigated through abuse that destroys people, and we're still here. That's success to me. But see, other people don't look at my life as being successful. They think I'm just a failure and a flop, right? What they don't realize is that, no, I'm very, very, very successful because I managed to survive something that would kill most people, or they kill themselves like two of my brothers did. And I mean, I'm likable. I just don't allow people to abuse me anymore. Right, so I don't have to be the people pleaser. I don't rule my life running around trying to please people just so they'll like me. They either like me or they don't. That's just the way it goes, And I can't, says, oh yeah, this voice says I can't trust others. I've learned that I can trust some people. Can't trust everybody, but there are people that I can trust. They've proven themselves trustworthy. They trust me. I trust them. So we don't have to listen to those negative messages, right? Very, very important. So we'll pick this up Monday, and I hope you'll go to Hovoka.org and check it out. There's some good information there. Positive reinforcement. What am I doing right in my daily walk? Well, we can look at this, because it's too easy to be negative, right? So we can look at the positives. Well, I got up. I've been doing everything this week that I was really kind of supposed to be doing, which is great because I made lists and got it all done. I didn't put stuff off, which is great. And I'm working on my healing journey. I'm just purchasing 2 books to work through my CSA, child sexual abuse, The Wounded Heart, I think that's what it's called. And I'm looking forward to doing some work in that because I need to go in and do some inner child healing work, and I'm going to work with those books and work with myself from 8 years old, 8 to 9, and it's going to be good. It'll be a slow process, but I'm glad I'm actually going to work on it. This is things that I'm happy that I'm actually doing instead of putting off, right? And a positive reinforcement I could say for myself today is I feel good about myself. Now, if I walk around all day saying I feel good about myself, but I don't believe it, then it doesn't do any good. I feel good about myself. I feel good about myself. I could say that, and it's good for the brain to hear that, especially our brains, coming through abuse, suffering such scarring and trauma, right? I feel good about myself. I actually do feel good about myself because, it's not just that, that I'm just working on my healing journey or whatever. I try to help people around me, as much as I can. Like my husband, I'm trying to help him out. He's very, very sick. He's terminally ill, and he spends quite a lot of time in the hospital, in and out of the hospital every year. And every year that goes by, he just gets sicker and sicker. And they diagnosed him with 2 to 5 years to live, and he's still here. It's been 17 years, so I'm very, very thankful that he's still here. And so I try to help him, and I'm good to my cat. And I love my cat. Like, she's beautiful, she's precious, and so that makes me feel good about myself that I can take care of this cat. I didn't have any children because I'm been made barren by child sexual abuse, but I've had pets throughout my life, and I always try to do a really good job taking care of my pets. That makes me feel like a good person because I treat my husband and my cat very well, and I'm good to myself, and so I feel good about myself. I don't do the perfect job all the time on everything. I'm not perfect, and but I do. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I do feel good about myself because I care about people, and I do the best I can to get through the day without hurting people. And if I do hurt somebody, try to make it right, and do the best job I can to look after help my husband out, and also to be good to my cat because she deserves it. She grew up abused as well, and for I think the first 4 years of her life, and she came into our life, and we're just so blessed to have her. And she's just this happy, wonderful cat now because she's got a great place to live, and so do I. See, I'm not being abused anymore either. So I feel good about myself. I'm looking after myself and doing the right things to make sure that I'm not re-victimized and helping out, trying to help others. So we can look at the positives, instead of just looking at the negatives. Right? It's so important. And we'll have to pick the rest of this back up Monday. There's some interesting information if you're having trouble with boundaries or for instance, like cognitive boundaries, physical boundaries, just having trouble with flashbacks or whatever. There's great information on a website. It's called Michael C. Irving. It's called Child Abuse Survivor Monument. Just type into your browser Michael C. Irving, IRVING, or you can type in your browser Child Abuse Survivor Monument, and that'll take you there. And he's a PhD. He's a survivor of abuse himself, so he knows. He's been there. But he's a sculptor, he's a coach, and he's a counselor. And he's got a PhD. And he's got a great website for survivors of abuse. If you look around and find the tab where he's got his boundary work, that is really worth looking at. There's all kinds of things you can do to create physical boundaries, right? And to help yourself get through the day if you're having a lot of trouble with flashbacks and whatnot. This is one of the best websites I've ever seen for this because he's got whole lists of how to create cognitive boundaries, how to create physical boundaries, identifying boundaries, right? Very important. So if you're having trouble, I would say if you're having trouble today, you make sure you reach out and you get some help, right? We've got about 30 seconds left here. If you're having trouble and you just can't cope and you don't know what you're going to do, you just reach out and you get some help. You just call, like if you don't have a trustworthy person in your life that you can trust, and it's the weekend and there's nobody around and, nobody can trust because there's so many times that's the case for us, in life, and there's just nobody there, you call a crisis line. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make the right decision. You make sure that you get some help if you're struggling and you can't cope. Because there's people out there like us who've been through it and have been there. They know what it's like, and they're sitting on the other end of those crisis lines, and they're making they're either volunteer or they're making very low pay. They're doing it because they want to help. They want to make a difference, and so they're just like us. So make sure you reach out to somebody around you, right? Don't struggle and suffer on your own, and in silence, and just on your own. That's horrible. And I know I was there, but I started reaching out, and I started reaching out first of all to other survivors, and then I started reaching out on an anonymous survivor website that was just anonymous. You could go there, you didn't have to give your name or your information, and you could just get help from people who have been there, know what this is all about, and know how hard it is every day to get up and do this, and they know because they've been there. And so I started reaching out to those people, and then before I knew it, I had all kinds of support and all kinds of people in my life who care and, help me along the way. So, you make that right decision for yourself, and you get some help, right, no matter what it is. If you don't trust counselors or therapists or whoever, do the anonymous support, whatever you have to do, but make sure you get some help, right? And I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you again on Monday morning, same time, same place, 7 o'clock in the morning here, and we'll just pick up where we left off. And I'll be thinking about you all over the weekend, and whoever's listening here, I just hope you have a wonderful day. Be good to yourself, be kind to yourself, take care of yourself, be kind to people around you. If you're being abused right now, in a situation right now, you make sure that you get some help. You don't allow yourself to be abused. And if you're, if you're struggling, like I said, you make sure and you reach out. Have a good weekend, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
A few things to know before you fly WestJet to Nashville. You don't need cowboy boots to have a great time in Nashville. You don't need a cowboy hat either. You don't even need to be a country music fan. To have a great time in Nashville, you just need to go to Nashville. WestJet can certainly help with that, with great low WestJet fares nonstop from Calgary to Nashville. Visit WestJet.com or call your travel agent.